Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
So welcome to A Coffee with Karen, a cup of positivity with just a sprinkling of woo-woo, but we may move ahead on that and add a couple of tablespoons in today. I'm not really sure. So each week my guests tend to be around the holistic healing approach, whether that's mental, physical, spiritual, or any sort of combination of all three. So I would say our guest today is definitely sort of covering all three. So for those of you listening in, my name's Karen Roberts, your host. Yes, I would consider myself a holistic transformation coach. I help people find their mojo. Right, if you have lost your mojo and you need help getting back on track, get in touch. But my guest today, Paul, if you can share with the listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, and share a little bit of your story, please.
Yes, certainly. Thanks for inviting me on, Karen. I really appreciate it. So I run a company called Nutrient Nirvana, based in England. That's been going for about 2 years now. We're doing very well. The reason why I started a supplements company was because I was beginning to notice that everyone around me, or almost everyone around me, had some sort of syndrome, illness, autoimmune disorder. The list goes on and on. So I wanted to do something about it, and I started to research natural health, vitamins, minerals, food, etc. And yeah, so far so good. It's going really well. I'm helping lots of people recover their health, which is fantastic. And basically, I mean, we sell vitamins, minerals, superfoods, adaptogenic herbs, all sorts of different things. But I really my philosophy is focused around 4 different nutrients. If people were just to supplement with high quality, non-GMO, these 4 supplements, I think they would find that getting sick is very difficult. So I would say that vitamin C, vitamin D, magnesium and iodine are, in my opinion, the 4 most important nutrients there are for health. And they're also 4 nutrients that are quite difficult to get from food these days. And I mean, with vitamin C, for example, there's not many people that eat lots of organic fruit and veg anymore, is there? You know, if I go to my local supermarket, I can't help but be a bit nosy. I'm queuing up and I'm looking in everyone's trolley thinking, oh dear. So, you know, so it's kind of like, and I kind of approach this as well from like an ancestral point of view. So with diet, I'm thinking, what would my ancestors have eaten during the winter in this country to get through to, you know, spring, summertime? And they would have been eating lots of meats, cured foods, and fermented vegetables, which is a big one for me. I eat a lot of, well, not a lot of, but I eat fermented vegetables every day with every meal. And not only are they packed with nutrients, they also contain a lot of probiotics. So they're super good for your gut. And so many illnesses, conditions, autoimmune disorders are triggered or initially started by a compromised gut flora. So just doing that one thing, eating fermented vegetables every day, which is what the Japanese do, a lot of Eastern European people do it, that can go a long way to keeping you healthy.
I would agree 100%. The problem that I see that we've come across in the last few years is that nutrition, you know, what goes in is just discarded. But then we do know that I can't remember how many years. Is it 8 years to study for a doctor? I think they do 4 hours on nutrition, which gives you a bit of a it's a bit odd, isn't it? Right?
Exactly.
We are what we eat.
Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to be employed by the pharmaceutical industry. So it's not in the pharmaceutical industry's interest to teach their doctors how to supply people with nutrients, and a patient cured is a customer lost. And that is pretty much how it works, A lot of their products treat the symptoms of an illness or a disease, but they don't go to the root cause of it like nutrition does. So it's an evil web, unfortunately, that we're experiencing at the moment, and it's just trying to get that information out there. It's learning how to prevent these things from happening in the first place. But quite often, in my experience, a lot of things can be reversed with nutrition and supplementation as well. So hopefully, that's the future. Hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, I do. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, my background is more, and I'm glad you said that about the our ancestors would have eaten a lot more meat. They would have eaten fat. They would have eaten, fermented vegetables. The thing is, so I come from it from when I studied basically, type 2 diabetes, which is just one thing that I would say the majority. And that's a sad thing to actually say. The majority of people are suffering with, even if they've not been diagnosed, they've got metabolic syndrome and they're heading on that way because of the information that is out there on what is a good diet or not. And there's not one doctor on the planet that is prescribing insulin that can say that they've cured a patient, because it's impossible. Whereas, as you say, things can actually be reversed through changing of the diet and lifestyle. And it's interesting, isn't it, that I don't know how long this has been going on for, but we seem to have given our power away to people in a white coat who don't seem to advise on nutrition and proper nutrition. And we seem to have lost our way. I mean, none of us want to go back to scurvy. We know the importance of vitamin C. However, do you think that there's a discrepancy in dosage? So they can say, this is what we recommend every day for vitamin C. However, if we want to treat, so a medicinal dosage would obviously be very different to an average daily dosage. Is that something that you've found?
Yeah, I think first of all, everyone's different. So it's about finding out what's right for the individual, especially with vitamin C. Myself, personally, what I do is I take half a teaspoon twice a day in clean water. I take, and we sell pure vitamin C powder, which is ascorbic acid. And I first came across that through a Nobel Prize winning scientist called Sir Linus Pauling. Don't know if you've come across the name before, but he was a massive advocate of vitamin C and was curing lots of illnesses with vitamin C as well. And the very first time I used it medicinally was on my wife. I was just leaving for work one day, and as I was leaving, she said, "Oh my God, I feel terrible. I'm coming down with something major. I can feel it." And she looked bad, runny nose, temperature. Just wasn't right at all, and it was coming on very quickly. So what I did immediately was I made a drink, a large glass of blackcurrant juice, and I stirred up around 5 grams of ascorbic acid into it. I made her drink it, left for work, came back about 8 hours later. She was 100%, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Oh my God, this works." This works. This was a long time ago when I first got into it. And since then I've done similar things with other people. If you catch it early enough and do that, it will work, Maybe not with just one hit of vitamin C, but if you repeat that process every hour, it's gonna beat the virus. There's no doubt about that. It always does. It works 100% of the time. Getting back to your original point, I would just say everyone's different with vitamin C, so you have to find what works for you. Basically, as I said, I do half a teaspoon twice a day, morning and night, because our bodies hold vitamin C for a few hours at a time. So yeah, another interesting thing I found about vitamin C recently is that if you're trying to get all your vitamin C from fruits, for example, so you're going to the supermarket and you're buying oranges, grapefruits, lemons. The thing that a lot of people don't realize about vitamins and vitamin C is the moment you pick it from the tree, the bush, or whatever, the vitamins start to die off immediately. Okay, so imagine you've got this orange and it's come from Honduras or I don't know, somewhere like that. So it's been picked, it's been stored, it's been frozen, it's been shipped, it's been warehoused, frozen. It goes onto the supermarket shelf where it may stay for a few days. We don't know, but I mean, you're talking about 6 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe. How much vitamin C is left in that fruit?
I would challenge that there is
Is
very
that?
little.
I
I
mean,
mean, if you've noticed that when you purchase, I noticed this, if you were to purchase anything really, fruit or veg, from a non-organic, non-farm shop,
mm,
as soon as you get it home, mold will start growing within a few days. It just doesn't last, which indicates, like you say, it's been a
mm,
very long time in
mm,
storage or transportation before it's actually gone on the shelf. So yeah, what we think we're getting from a produce, because we've been brought up through schooling to understand that there's a lot of vitamin C in oranges or lemons. Although there is another look on that, is that the seeds that we've played around with these fruits for so long. I mean, they even know we should get vitamin B17 from seeds of fruits, apart from citrus fruits, because we've played around with it for so long, for
mm.
so many years. So yes, I would challenge, how much vitamin C you're actually getting from pretty much anything that you think you're getting
Mm.
as fresh, right?
Yep, totally agree. Totally agree. And that's not to we've not even mentioned the sprays, that they spray on the fruits and vegetables as well. That will obviously kill off a lot of mineral content in the food. So, and of course, if you try and do the right thing and you go to a supermarket and you buy from the organic range, that's a step up. But we don't know how good the soil was that organic fruit or vegetable was grown on either. So, we're really
Very
in the middle
true.
of the supermarket gods when it comes to all this. Uh, which is why, I mean, I've actually got an allotment. I've had one for 5 years now, so that's a big step in the right direction for me. And if you can grow your own food, even if you don't have a garden, you live in a flat like me, and you don't have a garden, you can always grow things like seeded sprouts, microgreens, and these things are super nutritious as well. They carry a lot more nutrition in them than if they were the full size version, if you see what I mean. So that's an easy thing to do if you're living in a flat. You can still grow certain things, but yeah, it's very difficult to navigate around all this and try. And I'm a big fan of getting what you can from food. I believe in that. I'm only supplementing, as I've said, because there are nutrients out there, the four that I mentioned, that are so hard to get from food now. I mean, for example, iodine, which is super important for thyroid and all sorts of other things in the body. If you're not eating a lot of seaweed or you're not eating a lot of sushi, like the Japanese do, then you're probably going to be deficient in iodine unless you're living close to the coast and you're breathing it in through the air, through the sea air. If you're living inland, you're going to have a problem eventually. So yeah, so it's
It's
crazy world.
interesting, isn't it? We know that we want all these, a variety of minerals, vitamins, but also trace minerals.
Yep.
And we know that we're just in today's Western diet that we're not going to be getting um, the exact quantities. And like you say, it's not even just about what's in it, which I doubt very much it is from a normal supermarket, but also how much are we absorbing. So not
Mm.
everybody will be able to
Yep.
even absorb certain
Mm.
nutrients from
Yeah.
the fruit and veg, which is why it is I feel it's so important to do supplement. I mean, really, what you've said right from the beginning is, I suppose, the basis of terrain theory versus the germ theory. I mean, we know that the trouble is, more recently, germ theory is just at the forefront of everybody's mind, whereas a healthy terrain or healthy body, if it does come across a certain germ, a certain virus or certain bacteria, it's not going to have a problem. Whereas other people, if they're deficient, if their terrain is not in the right state, then they're going to suffer. So it's causal causality. It's like, that's not the cause of disease. We're going to be bombarded, unfortunately, through no fault of our own, with different bacteria, viruses for all of our lives. If we can get our bodies in a healthy state, there's no reason why this should affect us, which seems to be why some people, otherwise, why is it that some people are suffering and others aren't? And just because we look healthy doesn't mean necessarily our cellular health is in such a state, right?
Yep,
so
exactly.
that's sort of really what you're talking about, is getting the body into a healthy terrain, giving it the correct nutrients that the body needs, and then we're in a much better position. It doesn't mean we're never going to get ill. I mean, you've just said that you just don't seem to get ill anymore because you know how to stop it dead.
Yeah, I put that mostly down to vitamin D3 and vitamin C. I've been taking around 5,000 international units of vitamin D3 a day. And what I've already mentioned about the vitamin C, half a teaspoon twice a day. I've been doing that for 12 years now. And prior to that, I used to get a cold at least once a year. I've not had a cold since. So, are we allowed to mention certain words on here that begin with a V and a C? I don't know. You have to be so careful. Don't want to get you thrown off.
Well, at the end of the day, this is a conversation. People can take from it what they will. We're having a discussion, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, personally, I find it criminal that the government over the last 2 years has not been telling people enough about vitamin D. And when they've mentioned it, they've said, well, perhaps 1,000 IUs of vitamin D a day would be recommended, and that's probably the equivalent of sticking your head out the window for 5 minutes in the sun. What are you talking about? And they say anything above that is toxic. So I should have died a long time ago, according to these people. But I'm pretty healthy. Don't get colds. All the white blood cells in your immune system have vitamin D receptors. So it's just a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned.
There have been studies, haven't they? They have been pushing it, and I have to say, so I'm not white, but I'm not particularly dark. But in the sun, I will tan very easily. I lived in the Algarve for 8 years, and when I returned, so 10 years ago now, because I come from the fitness and therapy world. So my working day would be in an air-conditioned gym, no sunlight, no nothing. And going back 4 years ago, so this is after 6 years of coming back, I was so tired, and I was putting it down to my age, and I decided to leave the fitness industry because I was just so exhausted. And then my boyfriend at the time told me, well, maybe actually, 3 months after I'd given it up, I was still feeling very tired and very achy in my hips. So maybe you shouldn't. I've not really wanted to go to the doctor. So I did go to the doctor and had some blood tests. My vitamin D was on the floor because not only was I back in the UK where we don't have a lot of sunlight, my working day was inside. So I just really wasn't absorbing it. And it really was causing a problem. Well, I was given high dose vitamin D. So if it was so toxic, that wouldn't have been prescribed to me, would it? And it was almost instantaneous, the difference in how I felt. And it was a real wake-up call. It's like, well, I'm so used to absorbing so much sunlight, so much vitamin D, and then gone from that to zero. yes, it had affected my health in a big, big way.
Yeah, it would do, definitely. Just out of interest, have you tried one of these? Oh, I've just turned it on.
Oh,
It's
the lamps.
vitamin D lamp, yeah, a vitamin D lamp,
Yeah,
which
I
I have got.
haven't, but
I have.
yeah, what a brilliant idea.
They do work, and I've got one. You can pick them up on Amazon for about 30 quid or something. I have that on throughout the day if I'm indoors working or whatever. And I know it works because my sister-in-law had one before me, and she's stuck indoors a lot of the time, and she had her vitamin D levels checked, and they were very high. And she wasn't even taking a vitamin D supplement at the time, and this was in winter, I think. So
Oh,
that could be
wow.
the only explanation as to why her levels were so high. So getting a vitamin D lamp when you're indoors working in the office or whatever you're doing is a really good idea in the winter. But as you were saying, I've always told or recommended to people that they take Vit D during the autumn and winter months, because in this country we're getting no sunlight at all. We're getting very little sunlight, and the sun is so low in the sky that it's not producing. When we're not getting any vitamin D, so that's a really good thing to do. I've just suddenly lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
Well, they've got the lamp, which actually I think I'm
Yeah.
going to invest in one, because I am spending my day like this on Zoom. I need a light, so I may as well get some vitamin
Yeah.
D from it,
Oh,
mightn't I?
that was it, exactly. So I was saying that I recommend it for autumn and winter, vitamin D supplementation. But how many people, as you pointed out, go through the spring and summer between the hours of 9 and 5 during the week or longer indoors out of the sunshine? My missus has to. So it's even then you need to be taking vitamin D. You need to. It's so important for your overall health. And of course, famously, it gets rid of SAD, sad disorder, doesn't it? People get the blues in winter because they're missing the sun.
Oh,
And
100%.
yeah, I'm going back to germ theory. I've always thought, well, not always, but for a long time, I've thought that I kind of very much doubt the idea that there's this bug hiding behind the skirting board all winter, all year round, and then all summer, comes out in the winter, flies out and bites you on the bum, and you get. I just don't believe that. It's your vitamin D levels are gradually, going down and down and down the longer we go into winter, and
There you
that is
go.
why our body starts to, have like these flu-like symptoms.
Well,
So
there
that's
is a lot of research, and I know, people say listen to the doctor. There's lots of doctors and scientists that do believe in the terrain theory. And another thing is something we've not really spoken about, is that yes, one thing is that step one is getting the right nutrients in, but another thing is actually collating or removing the toxins. And as you say, it's I don't know, in this day and age, we're looking for one thing. It's just, yes, it's that one germ, that's one particular thing that's attacking us. And I would say it's a combination of things,
mm,
as you said, naturally, depending on where you live, vitamin D levels are lowering. So we're not going to be, and as you did mention, Linus Pauling, he won the Nobel Prize for his research into the fact that every ailment and disease can be traced back to a nutritional deficiency. So
yeah.
if vitamin D, which is so important with so many things that the body is doing, it's important in so much, that's reducing. Maybe because of the summer, maybe we've been drinking more, maybe we've been partying more, maybe we've been not eating too great. So our toxins have increased throughout the summer. Vitamin D is going down. And it's like the body gets to the stage where enough, come on, we need to cleanse. And what is a cold? Is the body trying to expel
To
stuff
purge,
out of
yeah.
the body. Why do you get a fever? It's so I truly believe that it's this combo. It's not just the one thing. It's getting the nutrition in, toxins out, stress. We're a lot happier, aren't we, in the sun? You
Mm,
mentioned sad disorder.
mm,
We're
yeah.
happier in the sunshine. All of a sudden, the mornings are dark, the evenings are dark. We might be under more stress, so cortisol. That's a final thing.
Mm.
It's that's why I truly believe that's why we tend to get ill in the winter. Our bodies are just not on in the optimum level. So if there was something, then maybe we're affected by it. But yeah, I'm open to whether it's is or isn't. But however, either way, whether there isn't, it makes sense that a healthier body. So I'm going to take your advice there. I like that idea of that. I do believe I need that. And the thing is, if you don't get tested, how would you know? I just thought, oh my God, I'm getting old. I really need to get out of this game. I can't keep up with the young uns. I'm tired. And actually, it was something that was so easily rectified, and it was having an effect on not just my body, but also, I wasn't feeling great, 100%.
Yeah,
so easily rectified.
The way I see it, there's only 3 ways that you can die in this existence: physical injury, nutritional deficiency, or toxic overload. There is no other way, you know.
There you go.
So, and going back to what you were talking about with toxicity, that is a massive problem at the moment. We could go into the reasons why, EMFs, poor quality air. There's just so many things that are causing us to be the food, the stuff in the food in the supermarkets. There's so many reasons. So there are things people can do to try to detoxify. I'm going to just grab something. 1 second.
Go on, go for it. So with regards to EMF, I'll show you. I have my little disc.
That is probably my favourite product. Okay,
Ooh, and is that from your range?
Yeah, it's a bottle of Fulvic Minerals. Okay, so these are soil dirt minerals. They come out of the ground. There's around 70 trace minerals in this little bottle, amino acids, phytonutrients, which are plant nutrients. It's incredible. This will neutralise glyphosate. So, for example, if I go out for a meal somewhere and I don't know how the food's been cooked, I don't know if it's organic, I'll come home, stick 7 drops in a tall glass of clean water, drink it, and that's me sorted.
Definitely. Fulvic acid collates toxins from the body. It's going to, and I'll give you another bit of proof as to why that works. So my eldest is, so it would have been my youngest. So she was 18 yesterday. So I was taking Fulvic Minerals. I was taking colloidal minerals, so Fulvic. And the reason the Fulvic works so well is because fulvic acid is how plants absorb the minerals from the soil. So it makes it more bioavailable to the body. Now, I went for my scan at 20 weeks and the woman wanted to redo. She went, oh, this can't be right, because my vitamin and mineral levels were just perfect. And a pregnant woman at 20 weeks, the baby will take all your stuff and you will be low. Mine were just perfect. And she wanted to retake them. And I said, no, I'm taking very good quality fulvic mineral solution. So for me, that was my proof, scientific proof if I needed, that my baby was getting all the nutrients, but also I was being replenished by fulvic minerals. So I would totally.
Did you?
Sorry.
Did you experience morning sickness when you were pregnant?
No, I felt fine.
So if anyone is pregnant and experiencing morning sickness, this will get rid of it. This will eliminate that, because you've got all the trace minerals in there. You're feeding yourself and your baby. Another really important thing to take when you're pregnant is iodine. Iodine is massive for pregnancy or pregnant women, because it does a lot for the baby's brain development. And plus, when you're pregnant, your requirements go up anyway with all nutrients. But iodine deficiency in a pregnant woman can lead to it's an official condition called cretinism, which is basically a low IQ in the baby. So iodine is also massive for pregnancy.
Wow. And your advice, I know we spoke earlier, I know your advice on taking iodine, you don't even have to drink it, do you? It doesn't taste that brilliant
No,
anyway. But
no.
but
I
there
mean,
is another, which I would say possibly better way of consuming iodine. Can you share with the listeners?
yeah, sure. So I think it's okay every now and again to drink it. A couple of drops in water, I think, is the equivalent of what Japanese people get in their diet through seaweed, seafood, sushi, etc. But if you do that regularly, it can knock out the good bacteria in your gut, and you don't want to do that. So the best way to do it is to paint it onto your skin. And that's exactly what they do if you go into hospital for an operation. They smother you in the stuff. So I think it's 1 drop in water is the equivalent of 8 drops on skin. So personally, what I do about 20 to 30 drops about once every 2 or 3 weeks, and my levels are absolutely fine by doing that. If you're new to iodine, what I would suggest is the first thing you do is you just drop 1 drop onto skin, because about 1 in 3,000 people are allergic. It's very rare, but just to be on the safe side. And then, if that's okay, go for like say 16 drops, 16 to 20 drops on your skin. Do it before you go to bed, and then when you wake up the next morning, check to see if you can still see the iodine stains on your skin. If they're still there, which is extremely unusual, but if that happens, that means that your iodine levels are great. If the iodine's been absorbed, the stains are gone, then you need to keep repeating the process until you wake up one day and the stains are still there. That's basically how it works. It's really easy to do that way.
Love that
Another,
advice because sorry,
yeah,
go on.
one other point about that is it's also, when you're supplementing with iodine, it's a good idea to eat a couple of organic Brazil nuts a day, because Brazil nuts contain selenium, and selenium is the twin mineral of iodine. So if you're long-term supplementing with iodine and not taking much selenium through your diet or whatever, then the selenium can get depleted. So by eating a couple of organic Brazil nuts a day, you're keeping both good levels.
Again, it's all about balance, right? It's all about balance. And
Yeah.
but what I find really fascinating about that advice of doing it on your skin is, again, rather than listening to one rule that you need X amount, you're actually listening to your own body. Your own body will tell you when it's had enough. Right?
Exactly
Because
right.
yes,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we don't want to upset the balance, and that makes sense. But if people were eating, like you say, Japanese, if that's their food of choice, they could be overdoing the iodine. Right? It's not going to be. It's not going to become toxic, right? I suppose that's the real thing. And the fact that taken that in conjunction with a fulvic, again, the difference between taking fulvic minerals would mean that you'll only absorb what you need, and anything else will be flushed out. So there's no danger of toxicity build-up, because yes, with certain, if we know that certain people taking lots of different types of supplements, especially from where they come from, it's highly processed, it's manufactured companies where, really the bioavailability of those nutrients is probably very little, because they're stuffed full of other stuff, right, that we don't need, which is why I love the fact that you've got the I will be getting some powder for you, because I have learnt about the importance, especially if you do get ill, of the high dose vitamin C. But it's always bothered me that how am I going to get that amount, because I don't want to be taking the extra stuff that's in it, if that makes sense. And we know that we should be taking zinc with it, so that we can absorb the vitamin C. But again, you obviously don't want to overdo it. So by having something that's just pure powder sounds far more sensible, something that you can just mix in with water, rather than these tablets you can get that you can be filled with stuff, toxic stuff sometimes, that you think, well, that doesn't belong there. So can you share with the audience what made you go down this road? What made you? What were you doing before, and Why did you make this decision to go down this road?
Yeah, like I say, really, at the start of our interview, I just noticed, people in my family were coming down with autoimmune disorders, things like rheumatoid arthritis, irritable bowel syndrome. I had friends with things, and they're in their 30s or 40s, so they're developing syndromes and illnesses that they shouldn't be getting it though at that age, and it just didn't add up to me. So I just started to research natural health, and one thing led to another, basically, and I decided to start a supplements company.
Wow.
And like I say, just if I may, just going back to iodine, two other things that I really want to say about iodine is, did you know, for example, that 9 out of 10 Japanese women do not suffer with menopausal symptoms, and that's because they're eating lots of seaweed, sushi, seafood, and they're getting lots of iodine in their diet. But it's the complete opposite in the West, where 9 out of 10 women do suffer with menopausal symptoms, and that's mainly down to the fact that their iodine levels are so low. And the other great thing about iodine is that it protects you from radiation. So if you've got concerns over EMFs, 5G, things like that, then iodine is also a great thing to have and to use regularly.
Awesome.
But
Because
yeah, sorry,
that
getting
is the
back to your
final
question.
thought.
Yeah. So getting back to the question, it was really, really, and then when I researched natural health, these 4 nutrients that I've mentioned kept coming up time and time and time again. And they seem to be the 4 core nutrients that, if people were just taking these in meaningful doses on a regular basis, I would suggest that maybe 9/10 of the hospital beds would be vacated. It would be that simple. So
There you
it's a
go.
massive
I mean,
thing.
they
Yeah.
did do a lot of research at the beginning. I remember seeing a lot and them saying that they do realise that vitamin D and vitamin C, people that were suffering were very low in vitamin D, which actually can be related to, at one point they were saying, people of colour were struggling more, which again, I would say that's down to they're not absorbing. They weren't having that problem in Jamaica or Africa, only England, which is basically suggesting that they're just, because they would need to be out in the sun longer than somebody with lighter skin, because they need longer to actually absorb the vitamin D. And of course, in this country, we just don't have it. So their vitamin D levels were probably lower than the other people. So it's got nothing to do with race or anything. It's got to be down to vitamin D levels. I mean, these things just seem so basic, really, but it is, people are just not being given the correct look. We're not saying that it's the cure all, the be all and cure all of everything. All we're trying to say here is to give your body the best fighting possible stance, right, against anything. It would make sense to give the body what it needs, so that it's going to have the best chance. We're not saying we're saying this is cure. We're just saying it's going to give yourself the best possible opportunity to fight anything, right?
I would just add to that if there's anyone from the pharmaceutical industry listening to our show, I'm spelling cure with a K and cancer with a K for legal reasons. All right, so
it is. I do, look, I'm with you, and I know we've got to be careful what we say on here, but the thing is there's a difference.
I'm just giving my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's
I'm just
opinion.
speaking from personal experience.
They're in the sickness industry as opposed to the health industry. And I do see, look, don't get me wrong, and I know people listen to me and they probably think I'm so anti-Western medicine. I'm not. Look, if I'm in a car, man, they've done so much good on certain things, but for the more chronic ailments, it's not getting any better. It is just, look at the facts, look at the figures. Something is not working. And I do think because, again, like you said, they're treating a symptom, whereas somebody like you, you're treating the whole person. This is why we're all about holistic health, treating the whole person so that it can have a better chance of, you know, fighting off any of the C's.
Yeah,
But,
totally. I mean, I love talking about solutions to problems. You know, I mean, over the last 2 years, people have been so, you know, I don't need to go into all that, do I, basically? But the last 2 years, it's been stress, fear, anxiety, coercion, all these horrible, horrible things. I like talking about solutions. So, I mean, for example, did you know that in Jamaica, Jamaica has the worst record of arthritis? So, and they have the lowest levels of the mineral boron in their soil. And in Israel, they have the least amount of arthritis and they have the highest amount of boron in the soil. So you
Interesting.
can buy a product called borax. I'm sure have you heard of borax?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, and you can buy that. You can chuck it in the bath when you have a bath, and it will obviously decrease your chances of developing arthritis dramatically, but it will also neutralize sodium fluoride in the water. So it's a double win. So that's a really good thing to do. You can get a big bag of borax on eBay for like pennies. So,
Right.
you know.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
so that's a
interesting
really, you
how
know,
so many things, like even you've said there, that it just goes to show people have got to remember that the skin is the body's largest organ, and you're going to absorb what you put on the skin. You've just proved it there with the iodine and with the borax. I mean, I know I will put in my bath. Sometimes I put bicarbonate of soda. I have a big tub of bicarbonate soda. I'll put that in the bath, or I have magnesium. So I don't personally take any supplementation orally for magnesium. I'll put it in my bath because I know not everybody likes a bath. Some people are shower people, so they're not going to do that. But it just goes to show what you've just even proven just there, that there are things that you could just actually, I mean, how simple is that? You haven't even got to ingest it. Put it in your bath, have a relaxing bath. Number one, it's going to help reduce cortisol. It's going to help reduce stress. And then it's another way of getting certain nutrients into the body, because sometimes it's better for it to be absorbed, right? Because it goes straight through into the bloodstream rather than going through all the different filters that we have.
Yeah.
So yeah, great advice. Great advice.
I'm glad you mentioned baths because I love baths. I'm a big bath fan, not really a shower fan. Unfortunately, I'm not rich enough to have a super duper water filtration system done throughout the whole house. That can cost thousands of pounds. So when I have a bath, what I do is I just drop 2 or 3 drops of iodine into the water, and that will clear up a lot of the crap. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And then, like I said, you can add borax, which will get rid of sodium fluoride. You use, is it magnesium chloride flakes in the bath?
Yeah, I just have magnesium.
Yeah.
Sometimes, some months I buy Epsom salts which is just a different magnesium, right? And sometimes I get specific magnesium. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, Epsom salts contain a lot of magnesium, and they're really good at drawing toxins out of the body. I use that sometimes. Dead sea salts contain more magnesium than Epsom salts, and both are as cheap as chips, aren't they? Plus, you could, as you said, sodium bicarbonate is great at alkalizing the body in the bath. Apple cider vinegar is fantastic for your skin if you add that to the bath. Coconut oil.
Oh, I've not. That's interesting. I've not thought of adding that to the bath.
That will just soften the water, and that makes it, because I live in quite a hard water area, so adding just only a tiny bit of coconut oil to the bath water will make it really soft and a much nicer experience. Then you can add essential oils rather than that, you know.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of opportunities when you have a bath to improve your health.
Yeah. And what a nicer way.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to what you were saying about toxins. Yes, would you, I say this to all the listeners now, would you eat your shampoo? Because if, hopefully you're going to answer no to that, right? But if you're scrubbing it into your head, it's going into the bloodstream. It's going into the brain. It's going into the bloodstream. And I think the last I read, I think there's something like 80,000 chemicals in personal care products that the body has no idea what to do with. It doesn't recognise these chemicals. So is it any wonder that we're overloaded, with toxins at the moment? So
100%. I agree. Absolutely. We think the thing is because it's not like you wash your hair and then you drop down dead. So there's no link.
No, it's
we're not
cumulative,
saying it's going to kill you, but it's because we tend to be using these products, and I have heard through the research that women in general will be worse than men because women are using this and that and rubbing this on their skin and using that and using perfume and bombarding our body. And because we get that it is a delivery system, but listeners, come on, how does a nicotine patch work? How does HRT patch work? Which is another horrific thing. All these things, they're delivery system. The skin is a delivery system. So you're absolutely right. It's not just the shampoo. It's the shower gel. It's all got propylene glycol or sodium lauryl sulfate that makes it lather up. We want to see a lather, but that's a chemical. And it only takes 11 minutes of being in the body where osmosis will occur. And osmosis is just basically meaning it will transfer through a cell membrane. So whatever is in your bath, you are going to absorb. You're in there more than 11 minutes. Fact. So are you choosing to add things that are going to help you, like magnesium, like I said, or borax, like you said, against arthritis, which is something I never heard before, because in general, people of colour tend to not suffer so much with, actually, or maybe it's not arthritis, maybe I was thinking more of things like osteoporosis because the bones are pretty strong, but okay. I understand maybe, the actual joints might be an issue because of that supplement, but we tend to have this mental block that just because we put it on our skin, it's not gonna, we haven't ingested it. But you're so right, and it's because if you're using it day in, day out over 50 years, no wonder you're getting to the stage, which is where a lot of people in their 50s are starting to have to take all these pharmaceutical medication for certain things. Maybe, just maybe, that could be part of the issue. Too toxic and not absorbing, or maybe at that stage, not being able to absorb the correct nutrition. So I'm with you there, and great advice. So I might add apple cider vinegar because I know it's good for you. I do have it. I don't.
It's wonderful for the skin. I can literally tell the difference. I look at my skin after I've got out of the bath and I've poured in some apple cider vinegar. It's amazing for skin. But then it's amazing for everything, apple cider vinegar. It is such a great thing.
It just doesn't taste very nice.
And I'm lucky I've got an apple tree.
It doesn't taste nice.
Yeah. I've got an apple tree in my allotment, so I've got loads of the stuff, and it's brilliant. I make it myself, and
you make it yourself. Love that.
Yeah, it's really easy to do. And I very often will start the day with a glass of clean water, and just a tiny teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, and that I find it gives me energy. It makes me feel cleansed, and it's great for the gut. Obviously, apple cider vinegar with all the enzymes and the probiotics and stuff. It's and like I say, you can make it yourself, or you can buy it. It's not expensive. It's a really, really good thing to have.
Do you create it? Do you make it to sell? Do you make it to sell?
Not at the moment. I'm not quite at that level yet. I don't have a factory or a big warehouse where I'm making stuff. I make stuff mainly from home. One day, hopefully, definitely, yeah. I would just like to get back to what we were talking about with arthritis. From my research, it would seem that the two most key nutrients that can help you avoid arthritis, one I've mentioned already, boron, but the other one is magnesium. And magnesium, it's my favourite nutrient, magnesium, for so many reasons. It does over 300 functions in the body. It helps all other nutrients work in the body. It's amazing for the nervous system, for stress, anxiety. And going back to what I was talking about with my kind of philosophy with these 4 nutrients, the reason why people are so deficient now in magnesium is really 2 reasons. One is that industrial farming, so they're spraying the crops constantly, which is knocking out all the minerals. There's loads of studies that you can read comparing the nutrients in our vegetables and fruits now compared to like 70 years ago. It's just plummeted. It's ridiculous. But the other reason I found out about why people are so low on magnesium is because that we burn it when we're stressed. That's the body's kind of what the body does as a reaction to stress, anxiety. So if you consider the last 2 years, and the problem was already massive before the last 2 years occurred. Now, and if I can just say to your listeners about the symptoms of a magnesium deficiency, they would be leg cramps. So have you ever woke up in the night and, like I used to many years ago, in excruciating pain and screamed the house down and got quite embarrassed about it afterwards because your legs are cramping up, and it's a horrible feeling, horrible sensation. Hiccups, eye twitches, there are all sorts. I could go on and on with the symptoms. Hiccups, eye twitches, cramps. What else is there? Obviously arthritis that we've talked about, stiff joints, stiff muscles, and of course most heart attacks are caused by a magnesium deficiency, and quite often strokes as well. And what many doctors do, if you're rushed to hospital with a heart attack, they inject you with magnesium. They don't mess about in A&E. They don't mess about with drugs. They give you magnesium straight away. I think it's magnesium chloride, if I remember rightly. They inject it into you because what magnesium does is it relaxes all the muscles, all the organs, all the joints in the body. That's what it does. Whereas its twin mineral, calcium, does the opposite. It helps you contract your muscles, but magnesium does the opposite. The trouble with that is that calcium is very easy to come by in the diet. Most of us have no trouble getting the calcium we need, but we're lacking in magnesium. So magnesium for me is probably the most important nutrient in the 21st century.
And I concur. I mean, it's going back to the balance, and again, going back to what you just said there earlier about stress. Cortisol, when cortisol is in the body, yes, it will strip your body of lots of nutrients, not just magnesium, and that be, it stops. It's all to do with your fight and flight. When you're in fight and flight, nothing else gets done apart from what you need to deal with. So if most people, I'm sure not me or you, I don't have a telly. I haven't had a telly for a year. I just don't get caught up in it. I don't feel that stress, but a lot of people are feeling that stress and that prolonged period. Sorry?
Yeah. I just said congratulations. You haven't got a telly. I've got to congratulate you for that. I've not had one.
Yes.
I've got my cat on. I look like a Bond villain at the moment. Hold on. That's
no problem. I see cat there.
Yeah, where was we? Yeah,
the cortisol, having stress, people being in this fight or flight for a prolonged period of time, that is causing so much damage to the health, on top of the nutrients, on top of the toxins, on top of the EMF, all these things. And I suppose that's why so many doctors and scientists are focusing on the terrain theory, because it's never going to be just one thing. It's going to be a combination. And again, you could probably seem healthy for a very long time, and then something happens, and that's the straw that broke the camel's back, but not the cause.
Yeah, exactly.
The cause was coming along. Nobody gets that ill from a one-time event. It's A build up, a build up,
Yeah.
a build up, a build up of all this out of balance, and then something happens and the body just gives it enough.
Yeah. We're totally on the
So,
same page. Plus, I mean, there's things that people can do that don't cost anything that can then help with things like depression and stress. Like I regularly go for a walk in the woods. I sometimes get strange looks from dog walkers because I don't have a dog, but it's my exercise. And yeah, I know. And but what I find is the air quality when you're in the woods. The air quality is fantastic, and you're getting all those negative ions. You know, you can do grounding. I love grounding over whether I'm over the allotment or just in the woods. Occasionally, I'll take my shoes off for 5 or 10 minutes, and I can feel the benefits afterwards. Whenever I come back from the woods, I'm always in a good mood. No matter what state I was in before, I always come back
there
in a
you
good
go.
mood. So there's so many
So it
things, sun
is.
gazing's another.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so
go on, Kat.
everything you've said, it's all on the terrain theory. Everything you've said, it's reducing stress, right nutrients, get rid of the toxins. So for people who are listening, because wherever you're watching this, you'll have all Paul's details of how to get in contact with him. So, but for the listeners, if they would like to get some vitamin C, vitamin D, iodine, whatever, how do they find you? What's your website?
Okay, so my website is www.nutrientnirvana.co.uk. On the website, you'll find all our products, and you'll also find loads of blogs, videos, most of which are health related. So there's loads of stuff on there. I also run a Facebook group, Nutrient Nirvana Facebook group. I'm on Instagram. I'm trying to get better at Instagram. I'm not the world's best at it. I find it a bit of a funny place, but I'm trying to get better at Instagram. And I've got a YouTube channel, which is mostly health related. But I've recently kind of detoured and gone into ancient history. I've got I talk to people on there, authors and researchers on all sorts of different things. So health, but also like I say, ancient history, Tartaria, anything you can think of, basically megaliths, all that sort of stuff that I'm really fascinated by. It's all on my YouTube channel.
Brilliant. And that's where
Which is
we
called
that's going more
Nirvana.
into the more woo-woo. Love it.
Yes, yeah. I've been, for want of a better word, I suppose, I've been awake for about 15 years now. So, and I'm so much happier for it. You know, it's a big. I think a lot of people have been fighting it over the last 2 years. At the same time, the government has red pilled a lot of people. Thank you, Boris. And a lot of people are on in our tribe now, but a lot of people fight it. You know, they just can't, for whatever reason, they just can't go there. They can't entertain that idea that, you know, the world isn't as the television presents it to them. You know, it's a very different place from the telly. You know how things are run and controlled, and it doesn't take a great deal of research to find that out. You know, there's so much information out there now. So yeah, I mean, just
Absolutely.
nutrition and health is just one part of this. You know, it's of the waking up process. Is you realise that you're better off taking charge of your own health. As Karen said, if you get knocked over by a bus, you want to go to A&E. I wouldn't dispute that for a minute. You know, but in terms of staying healthy, looking after yourself, eating the right foods, supplementing, not with, you don't have to supplement with 20 or 30 different things a day. You know, I regularly take maybe 4 or 5 things a day, and I maintain my health that way. And it's an empowering experience. And if you're firing on all cylinders with your health, then you're a lot more able to cope with what life throws at you, you know, and what the mainstream
There you
media throws
go.
at you. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win on all levels.
There you go. Either just turn it off, throw the TV out. You don't need it.
Never look back.
Look after yourself. Get some new. So I
Yeah.
will be getting get some iodine, some vitamin C. I'm definitely going to get that lamp. So thank you for that advice. That is
Well,
absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much for your time today, Paul. Yeah, it's been fascinating, and I'm with you 100%. And I wish you all the best with your business. And it's nice to hear that it is, you know, it's a UK company, right? It's, you know, it's UK based, right? Is that right?
yeah, small business. It's just me doing it, you know. I spend all day making capsules and different things for people, and it's a wonderful feeling. I get so much satisfaction, and I get a lot of positive customer feedback as well. You know, people are saying
Awesome.
that I can't obviously say too much, but people are saying my symptoms are so much better since I've been taking your advanced magnesium capsules or whatever it might be.
There we go. Brilliant. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Karen.
Listeners, thank you. I will be back next week with a coffee with Karen. Bye.
Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical, and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.